Dave, Adam, while we got you on, I got to hear from you. What did you think of the Siege of Mandalore arc that closed out the series?
Well, of course, I loved it. The intro to the episode caught me by surprise with that Lucasfilm logo and the John Williams music. So, but
Yeah.
I was gratified to see that they treated this like a movie. Um, it was almost as though they acknowledged that the original movie that introduced the series was kind of a bit rushed and thrown together in a format that it was not necessarily originally intended, but they decided they were going to do this finale upright, the way they wanted to, and clearly they threw a lot of budget into this. So I was excited to see that. I was excited to see all the tons of Easter eggs in every episode. Seeing, though he's never named, you see Kanan Jarrus and his master in the beginning of one episode, and you see Sabine's mother, Ursa Wren. And you see there are callbacks to Rogue One and to Solo, and they connect all the dots, connect all the various series and movies and things. I was surprised there weren't. I don't think there were any notable connections to The Mandalorian, and that was something I did expect. However, I get a feeling that season 2 of The Mandalorian, if reports are true, is going to be quite dense, possibly with connections to the Clone Wars, and maybe Rebels as well. So it may work in the opposite direction as far as that's concerned. I was surprised it had never occurred to me that it would overlap and encompass Revenge of the Sith in the way that it did. I always figured, I knew Dave Filoni and George Lucas wanted to lead up to Revenge of the Sith. So I had always envisioned, it would go right up to the start of the movie, and then if the series ever continued on, it would just continue after the movie was over. So to see it the way you could superimpose one on top of the other, or almost intercut the Clone Wars arc with the actual movie, I thought that was really cool and really unexpected. So that was really gratifying about it. But some of the best Star Wars there was right here in these 4 episodes.
Oh, wow. Well said. I definitely agree with you there. Because it definitely was some of the best Star Wars we've seen, and I think I made the statement several times that these 4 episodes, this arc, is probably the best Star Wars we've seen come out of Disney since the takeover, because it was just so deep and so impactful on so many levels. The way it weaved in, like you said, the way it weaved through episode 3 was mind-boggling. I assumed, probably like you and most of the rest of the world, that this was going to come right up to to Order 66, and that would be it. I didn't think we were going to get an interwoven story through the whole plot with markers of where it takes place during the movie. That just blew my mind in so many ways.
Right.
And it was such a well done, and for me, my favorite part of the arc was literally Kevin Kiner's work on that soundtrack. I mean, it was just absolutely incredible just listening to the music. And once I found out it was available on iTunes, and it's also available on Amazon and Spotify, I went and I bought the soundtrack for that arc. It was that good. I've listened to it about a dozen times. It's beautiful. Some of Kiner's best work, in my opinion. David, anything you want to add for Siege of Mandalore?
Oh my gosh. I was talking to you, Aaron, about, when are they going to release the episode guides for this? And so I finally got a chance to sit down and look at them, and they're so helpful. I was kind of hoping that they would name the moon, but in that the big Jedi cruiser comes down on, but they don't name it. They also, in the episode guide, because again, last week when we recorded, you and I hadn't seen either episode guide, but usually, we talk about it. But they do say that when Vader appears with the snowtroopers and stormtroopers, that it's been some period of time. It's moved into the Imperial era, but they don't give us the exact time on that. But I thought, that ending was so cool. And Adam, I don't know how many times you've watched that last episode, but something that Aaron had asked, I think you might have even tweeted about it, Aaron, was do we see Anakin's eyes in there? And interestingly, in the episode guide at StarWars.com for Victory and Death, the last episode, they have a little bit of trivia for each episode, and for that particular episode, they show a still of Anakin looking up at that convoy, right? And I just expanded the picture, and sure enough, you can see kind of like the skin that's been burned on Mustafar, but you see his eye in there, and I thought that was pretty neat to see that on the episode guide. I definitely think Vader, the model they use, definitely looks like Hayden Christensen, that thinner build. We get Vader getting bigger as we move into episode 4, right? And you got 6'4" David Prowse in it, for episode 4. So I thought it was kind of neat that they had the model look pretty similar to Anakin when he comes up in episode 3 and the Emperor's talking to him, and he has a little bit of that thinner build. So the continuity is so cool. But I really enjoyed the Easter eggs that Adam was mentioning. There's so many. We even talked last week, Adam, about FX7, another Kenner action figure, doing the scan on Rex before the chip is taken out. So it's amazing these last 12 episodes how many Kenner action figures Dave Filoni could get in there. But that's just just icing on the cake. So, but yeah, so much more to be said, but just love it. Just love that last arc.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, and it's not just the Kenner action figures. I mean, there's kind of nods to some of the past games and stuff as well. Like the whole scene for me, especially in when Maul is in the engineering section and he's using the Force to trying to pull everything down and pull it apart. To me, that was very reminiscent of some of the stuff we saw in the Force Unleashed video game with Starkiller, who ironically was voiced and portrayed by Sam Witwer as well. So to me, it just all kind of interweaved and flowed together, and there was a lot of nods to a lot of things that is throughout the saga, and this is a great thing because this actually flows us right into our next question that we want to get to, is the impact of Clone Wars. What kind of impact did the Clone Wars have on you personally, when it comes to your overall thoughts and feelings about the saga? I know for me, it changed my perspective on several things once I went back and rewatched the whole season. Like I said, I came in at the beginning of season 5 by finding out Maul was alive and going, what the deuce? So going back and binge watching the 4 seasons just so I could watch season 5 live, it definitely had an impact. It changed a lot of my views on the prequels at that point. Because to me, I enjoyed the prequels; they were good, but there was a huge gap with a lot of missing information between episode 2 and episode 3, and it also, for me, did not give me enough of a look at Anakin and Obi-Wan's relationship to truly understand that huge, gorgeous monologue at the end of episode 3. You were my brother, Anakin. I loved you. I mean, to me, I didn't feel that just watching the movies. It wasn't until I watched the Clone Wars that I truly understood what these two men had gone through, what they had been through, their brotherhood, their camaraderie. Seeing Ahsoka in the mix in Anakin's life, and the loss that he had with Ahsoka, with her walking away and everything. And, you can understand, it made actually his turn for me a lot more believable. He lost his mom, he's lost Ahsoka, and then bam, he's going to make sure he doesn't lose Padme. So it made a lot more sense to me on that, and how it impacted my views. And don't even get me started on how it expanded the mythology of the Force. That's a whole nother topic right there. Adam, how did it influence your personal view on the Star Wars saga overall?
Yeah, well, I had mixed feelings about the prequels when I saw them, and up to the time that the Clone Wars aired. There were things that I loved, but there were also some things I was disappointed in. So, when I first started watching it in Vietnam, I thought, hey, these episodes are really great. This captures some of the excitement and the adventure that was reminiscent of, and I'm talking even season 1, that was reminiscent of the original Star Wars trilogy, just that fun and adventure that we didn't necessarily get all the time in the prequels. And so it kind of refocused my interest back into Star Wars. But it wasn't until I left Vietnam and I moved to Cambodia just a year before I came back to the U.S. And I had more time, and I sat down and I caught myself up on the Clone Wars. By then, I think season 4 was airing, and so then season 4 was the first time that I actually started watching the show, episode by episode as it was airing. So it really hooked me, really refocused my attentions back into Star Wars, reignited that flame. And it was the Clone Wars that redirected my interest. From at the time, I was mostly doing travel writing and some freelance journalism, and it kind of switched my interest over to Star Wars, and the Clone Wars was what led me to consider becoming a Star Wars author. So that was life changing. It influenced me to when I came back to the U.S., the very first thing I did was go to Celebration in Orlando. And I believe that was the one where season 5 premiered. So yeah, it was Clone Wars that, especially towards the end of season 4, I think that was when Savage Opress and the Night Sisters were introduced, and they ended on a cliffhanger with Darth Maul. So that really captured my interest and my excitement in Star Wars again.
Oh, wow, that's a great story. It really had a life-changing impact on you, shifting your interest in writing.
It did, and at the same time, I had sold my Star Wars collection, my childhood collection, before I went to college, and it was something I had always regretted. But while I was sitting there in Cambodia and watching the Clone Wars, it got me so excited about Star Wars. And the funny thing was, we had a chain of bookstores there in Cambodia, a really nice bookstore.